It all begins during a fight, where two fighters are going at it in the ring, while, somewhere in the crowd, a man named Daniel keeps asking for Jane. The people around him tell him to relax and enjoy the match, but he won't let it go. Meanwhile, outside the arena, several people are cataloging huge numbers of USB drives, each marked with different codes. The files they contain are highly classified. Standing nearby is Noah Scanlon, the head of an investigative company. He's waiting for Daniel to arrive. Daniel used to work for him, but betrayed him by stealing both a device and valuable information. Back inside, Daniel keeps demanding to see Jane, so they finally bring her over and sit her next to him. Noah then pressures him to reveal the names of the people who paid him for information. In exchange, he promises that afterward, they'll be free to grab a cab and leave without any trouble. But Noah's real goal is the mysterious device. Daniel has it in his possession, even though he doesn't actually know how to use it. That's why Noah orders him to place it on the floor. At that moment, Daniel tells Jane to gather their things and grab his backpack. Then the two of them jump into a car. Keeping one hand on the device, Daniel starts the engine and speeds away from the scene. Noah yells that getting rid of the inventory won't change anything, but Daniel fires back that he's seen enough interrogations for one lifetime. Without wasting another second, he hits the gas and gets out of there. Jane has no idea what's going on. Daniel explains that they'll probably be chased soon because their vehicles have tracking devices installed. He then calls Hugo Wakefield and tells him that Jane was kidnapped as part of a plan to lure him out. Hugo responds by saying that Daniel needs to deliver the package as soon as possible. Daniel argues that he's just a technician and isn't qualified to handle something like this, adding that he doesn't even understand why any of it is happening. Hugo then orders him to stay hidden for the entire night. He also tells him that his assistant, Santiago, will come pick him up in the morning and warns him to destroy his phone immediately. After hanging up, Daniel explains to Jane that they'll need to stay out of sight until sunrise. Jane, clearly frightened, starts worrying about their situation, but she knows a place where they can hide. Later, Noah arrives at his office, where several employees are waiting with alarming news. They inform him that 12 workers failed to show up and that every one of them cleared out their desks before disappearing. On top of that, all of them had security clearances above G5. That's when they discovered that Hugo Wakefield never showed up for work either, and that his desk has been completely emptied out. It's also revealed that the second device, another one like the one Daniel stole, has vanished from the vault, while the third remains locked away in the cold storage facility. Meanwhile, Daniel and Jane arrive at a convent. There, a nun immediately recognizes Jane and helps clean the injuries she suffered during their escape. Later, Daniel asks if she was ever a nun. Jane explains that she was only a novice and never told him because people tend to judge her when they find out. She says that was 3 years ago and insists she's not sharing anything else until he tells her exactly what he stole. Daniel finally admits that he took the information he was supposed to protect because he believes humanity has a right to know the truth. Jane cuts in and confesses that she genuinely wanted to become a nun, but over time, she lost her calling. Daniel then continues, explaining that ever since getting out of prison 8 years ago for a hacking-related crime, the last 3 months have led him to discover things he never could have imagined. Now, he's convinced he's doing the right thing. He insists that the information he took doesn't belong to any person or organization. He also doesn't believe Wardex, the company run by Noah, where he used to work before stealing the device, has any right to claim ownership of it. What he stole, he says, belongs to 8 billion people. It belongs to the entire world. Finally, he tells Jane that she's now part of all this as well, and he deeply regrets getting her caught up in something so dangerous. The story then shifts to Kansas, where Margaret Fairchild is presenting the weather forecast on television. Meanwhile, her partner, Jackson, is watching a recording of her on his laptop. However, Margaret gets annoyed when she realizes what he's watching and asks if he has at least seen her audition tape for the weekend anchor position instead of just her weather segments. Jackson admits he hasn't watched it yet, so he starts playing it. But only a few seconds later, he pauses the video and assures her that she always does a great job. Margaret tells him she wants to move away from there, but Jackson disagrees. He reminds her that they've already moved too many times and that the answer isn't to run every time a problem comes up. Just then, a small bird lands on the window. As it hops closer to the table, Margaret suddenly freezes, as if she's fallen into a trance. Without warning, she starts speaking in a language neither of them recognizes. It sounds a little like Russian or Polish, but Jackson can't understand a single word. Confused, he cuts her off and asks when she learned to speak Russian. Margaret suddenly snaps back to reality and seems completely unaware of what just happened. She insists she never spoke another language because she doesn't even know Russian. Brushing the whole thing off, she gets ready to head to work. On the way there, a police officer pulls her over for speeding. The officer asks for her license and registration. After recognizing her as the local news weather reporter, he asks her to step out of the car. But then Margaret starts talking about the officer's personal life. She tells him he shouldn't be arguing with his wife and that she's only been irritable because she hasn't been sleeping well since the baby was born. The officer is completely stunned because Margaret has just described private details of his life that she has no way of knowing. Shaken and confused, the officer hands back her documents and lets her go. Margaret rushes to the TV station and explains that she was stopped by a cop on the way in. The staff quickly remind her that a weekend news anchor can't afford to be late, so that's not exactly helping her chances of getting the job. To make matters worse, she has less than 90 seconds before she goes live on air. Upon entering the studio, she interrupts an interview with a Korean guest. To everyone's shock, she suddenly starts speaking to him in his own language, translating the entire conversation perfectly. The people around her are stunned and ask when she learned Korean. Margaret, completely confused, insists she has never studied the language in her life. Eventually, they welcome her onto the program, and she begins presenting the weather report. But as soon as she tries to speak, she starts stumbling over her words and is unable to properly pronounce anything. Shortly after, they cut to a commercial break, and Margaret collapses in front of everyone. Meanwhile, Santiago arrives at the convent to pick up Daniel and Jane. Daniel calls Hugo Wakefield, who assures him they can trust Santiago. He also explains that Santiago will take them to a safe house where they'll be protected. On the other side, Noah Scanlon speaks with a colonel and informs him that they no longer need additional support for the operation. However, at that moment, he receives news about the strange incident that occurred during Margaret's broadcast. After reviewing the footage, Noah identifies something disturbing. According to him, Margaret was speaking in the exact same dialect connected to the information they are investigating. Convinced it is not a coincidence, Noah orders that she be located immediately. Meanwhile, Margaret is taken to a hospital where doctors place her inside an MRI machine in an attempt to figure out what is happening to her. Meanwhile, Santiago is driving Daniel and Jane toward a safe house when something strange happens on the road. Daniel suddenly stops and stares at a group of deer standing nearby. Noticing his behavior, Jane asks what's going on. Daniel then decides to show her the truth. On the other side, Margaret receives the results of her MRI scan. The doctors tell her that they found no abnormalities in the images and that, on the surface, everything appears normal. Still, Margaret insists that something is very wrong. Shortly after, several supposed FBI agents arrive at the hospital to see her. The moment she looks at them, Margaret realizes something doesn't add up and claims they are not real FBI agents. She then shocks everyone by saying the men are looking for and trying to eliminate Daniel Kellner. She quickly tells Jackson to play along and act normal while they pretend to head to the bathroom. Once inside, Jackson hands her a change of clothes, and Margaret uses the moment to switch outfits and escape without being recognized. Meanwhile, Daniel shows Jane information related to Wardex. In one recording, there are images from an airbase in 1973 where alien bodies were allegedly being kept under custody. He then takes out another USB drive and warns her that what comes next will be much harder to watch. He explains that this was the material Hugo Wakefield showed him before pulling him into all of this, since Hugo also used to work at Wardex. Next, he plays a video showing an operation performed on an extraterrestrial being. After watching the disturbing footage, Daniel closes the laptop and tells Jane that this is only a small fraction of what he has. According to him, there are 79 years of classified information, and he has access to a large portion of those files. On another front, Noah Scanlon receives new information about Daniel and about the last device that is still missing. While reviewing several photos and trying to establish a connection using the artifact, he realizes he can't make it work. He then requests all available information on Jane. At the same time, Daniel continues explaining to Jane how Wardex operates. He tells her that the organization has been active since the 1970s without relying on government funding, and that it handles such massive amounts of money that it's impossible to understand how it has managed to stay hidden for so long. Daniel is convinced that the only solution is to release all the information to the entire world at once. However, Jane disagrees. She believes humanity would not be able to handle such a revelation. She warns him that it could trigger panic, chaos, and unpredictable consequences for society. Despite all this, Daniel sticks to his position and decides to contact Hugo. Meanwhile, Margaret receives an unexpected phone call. On the other end of the line is Hugo Wakefield. Hugo explains that she is just a passenger on a path that will lead her to her true destiny. He also tells her they've been trying to help her for a long time and that they avoided contacting her directly until now. Confused, Margaret asks who he really is. Hugo replies that deep down, she already knows the answer. He then warns her that she cannot return home under any circumstances. He also tells her that if an address comes to her mind, she must go there without hesitation. On another front, Noah once again uses the mysterious object and attempts to establish a new connection while looking at photos of Jane. Shortly after, Hugo manages to reach Daniel and informs him that the woman they've been waiting for has finally appeared. He is referring to Margaret. According to Hugo, she is the missing piece needed to understand everything that is happening. Daniel even claims he can fully understand the strange messages Margaret speaks. Among them is a phrase that seems to carry a special meaning: do not fear what you do not know. Then Hugo tells him he will find a motel key along with new instructions and that Santiago will be the one to pick it up. Before ending the call, Hugo says something even more disturbing. It's the two of you. It's always been the two of you. At that exact moment, strange graphics and shifting patterns begin to appear around the place where Daniel is standing. Meanwhile, Noah uses the device again, triggering an immediate reaction in Jane. She starts feeling sick, and her eyes take on an unsettling appearance, as if an unknown force is trying to take control of her mind. Under that influence, Jane begins to behave in a way similar to Noah. However, she manages to fight it off in time by gripping the cross she wears around her neck, using it to regain control. That's when she realizes something disturbing. Noah has managed to project his consciousness into her. Through that connection, Noah demands that she reveal her location. Jane insists she doesn't know who he is or what's happening. Noah asks if she is still with Daniel and keeps pressing her for answers. Although she eventually manages to push him out of her mind, the connection leaves a trace behind. Noah is able to extract fragments of her memories. He asks where they were before, and Jane mentions the monastery of Santa Clara. She then continues describing everything she saw along the way: a river, several road signs, and different landmarks. With each memory he pulls, Noah reconstructs the route step by step. In the end, using all that information, he manages to locate the farmhouse where they are hiding. Noah tells Jane that if she can't find Daniel, she'll have to stop him herself by any means necessary. He insists that what Daniel is trying to do is wrong and could throw the entire world out of balance. Even if she doesn't fully understand it yet, he tells her she'll need to act when the time comes, both for her love for Daniel and for her responsibility toward humanity. Then he orders her to go to the counter and take a knife. Meanwhile, Margaret manages to contact Daniel to warn him not to return home. She explains that Noah has managed to reach Jane, that they've already been found, and that they intend to kill both Daniel and her. That's why she urges him to stay away. Shortly after, Daniel slowly returns to the farmhouse, while Jane remains inside, holding the knife. Daniel takes one of the agent's vehicles and enters the property. He quickly pulls Jane out and gets her into the car. As they drive away, it becomes clear that Jane is still being influenced by Noah. Still, she refuses to hurt Daniel. When she feels herself losing control, she deliberately takes the knife and cuts her own hand. The pain breaks the connection and triggers a violent reaction in Noah. While Daniel is driving with Jane, they get into an accident and are forced to hide as numerous agents search the entire area for them. At the same time, Margaret tries to explain what's happening to Jackson. She insists she isn't sick. She also admits that he wants to stay where they live, while she has always wanted to leave. However, she says that what she is feeling now doesn't actually come from her. According to Margaret, it feels like there is a passenger inside her mind. Strangely, she doesn't perceive this presence as something evil. On the contrary, it feels natural, as if it flows through her. She then states that Daniel is in the east and that they must find him as soon as possible. Jackson, worried about her condition, tells her he's going to get some water, but instead, he uses the moment to call the hospital and request medical help. When he returns, he realizes Margaret is already gone. The only thing left behind is a message delivered through a child, in which she tells him that she loves him. Meanwhile, Daniel contacts Hugo. During their conversation, he explains that he has started remembering strange images of animals that seem both friendly and terrifying at the same time. He says these creatures are constantly watching him. Daniel also tells him that he suspects Hugo wasn't the one who originally came up with the idea to recruit him. That's why he asks if there was something more behind the numbers and all the information Hugo showed him. Hugo avoids answering directly. He only tells him that he cares about what happens to him and that he still has a mission to fulfill. He also reminds him that nothing should stand in his way and that he must keep moving forward until he reaches a specific location the next day. Later, Daniel speaks with Jane and shows her Margaret's video. Since she can understand the strange messages Margaret is transmitting, she translates them. Then Jane, fearing she might be manipulated again, asks Daniel to tie her hands during the night so she won't do anything dangerous while she sleeps. However, during the early hours of the morning, Noah manages to establish another mental connection with her. Through that influence, he discovers Daniel's exact location. Without wasting time, he sends several agents to capture them. But just as the men arrive, Santiago shows up as well. Realizing the danger, Daniel hands the device to Jane and orders her to escape. While she runs, Santiago assumes both of them have been captured and leaves the area. However, the agents only manage to capture Daniel. Once face-to-face with him, Noah demands that he reveal what he did with the device and where he hid it. On the other hand, Margaret finally arrives at Wardex's facilities. There, she comes face to face with Daniel. As soon as Noah sees her, he recognizes her by another name and is shocked by her presence. At the same time, he seems to sense something in her that is completely unlike any normal human being. Noah orders that no one touch her, saying he sees his wife in her. Margaret slowly approaches Daniel, and when they take each other's hands, they experience a strange sense of familiarity. It feels as if they had known each other long before actually meeting. They then gather their belongings and try to leave the facility. No one is able to stop them. Margaret demonstrates an extraordinary ability to influence how people perceive reality. To different agents, she appears as different people, like close family members. Each person sees something different, which creates massive confusion among those present. In the end, the agents allow them to pass, unable to distinguish what is real and what is not. In this way, Daniel and Margaret manage to leave Wardex without anyone stopping them. Then Margaret tells him that, out of nowhere, she now knows people's data and understands things she never should. It turns out, both of them experienced the same thing. A cardinal bird looked them directly in the eyes, and after that, everything changed. They begin to see everything with absolute clarity, from solved equations to 8-digit binary codes, as if they were reading plain English. It is Agent Void, loyal to Noah, who pushes them toward the train, trying to make it run them over. In the end, he manages to hook them, but they break free just in time. Fortunately, they manage to jump onto the train without being injured. Meanwhile, Noah connects with Hugo. Noah asks if Daniel was an experimenter, and if that's why he couldn't permeate him, that is, connect with him. Noah replies that the plan has always been about the two of them, and that everyone else was never important to those pulling the strings. However, Hugo reminds him that they consider empathy to be the most important thing. Noah accuses him of helping Daniel escape from prison and asks how he could lie to him for 5 years. But Hugo tells him that Noah lost his way when he lost someone important to him, referring to his wife. Since then, he isolated himself and began restricting information, even from those working alongside him. Hugo says he only wanted to understand who they really were. Noah responds that the reason Wardex exists is to prevent the world from changing. He claims he spent 35 years protecting that power. However, Hugo reminds him that he has crossed every possible boundary, using violence and brutality to punish people simply for feeling amazed. He reproaches him for denying the world the chance to believe and argues that humanity also deserves to know the truth. Finally, he concludes that all of this must come to an end. But at that moment, several of his collaborators walk in, and Noah is able to see them. He then realizes that the other missing workers are also part of Hugo's organization. Meanwhile, at the convent, Sister Mora receives a call from Jane. Jane asks her if God loves her. Sister Mora replies that humanity is God's greatest creation on Earth. However, she also believes there are many other forms of life. After all, she wonders why God would create such a vast universe if it were meant only for humans. Jane asks if she would be afraid if she discovered that something beyond humanity exists. The sister answers no, and Jane asks her to look for a set of letters, KCXE, referring to the news broadcast. Elsewhere, Margaret and Daniel talk about their childhood memories when a small fox appears. However, they are soon found by a group of firefighters who were in the area. They help them reach Hugo. There, Daniel introduces Margaret to Hugo. However, Margaret already seems to recognize everyone. She even correctly names them before anyone introduces themselves. Then she looks at the house that was built for her. Margaret says that Hugo is the know-it-all and avoids looking directly at him. She also doesn't understand why they built a house identical to her parents' home. She refuses to become anyone's religion, so she runs inside. Once there, she sees everything exactly as she remembers it, including her room. Hugo explains that they built the place to recreate her experience and open a passage into the memories she shares with Daniel. He then tells Margaret that she must remember February 23, 1996, a memory that was blocked. He also explains that she is no longer just a passenger. She has a gift, but she still doesn't know how to control it or understand its purpose. According to Hugo, the only way to master it is to return to where it all began, that is, to go back home. He then tells both of them that they possess extraordinary abilities that were activated years ago. Daniel was given the gift of mathematics, allowing him to understand everything with perfect clarity. Margaret was given the ability to connect with people and understand them deeply, and according to him, there are only the two of them. Then, they are given the second device that Hugo had stolen to help locate what they are searching for. When both of them touch it and follow the instructions, Margaret finally begins to remember. She says that when she was 10 years old, something woke her up in the middle of the night, and she started singing a song. Soon after, an elk, a fox, a raccoon, and finally, the small bird appeared. The animals stared at her and guided her outside. Margaret climbed through the window and felt a strange sensation, as if she were passing through warm water. Even the snow beneath her feet felt warm. Following the animals, she arrived at a house where Daniel was also present. They were in the same place, and they held hands to calm each other. Then, different devices were brought toward them, causing a transformation that even changed the appearance of their eyes. After that, they returned to reality, and Margaret greets Hugo, but at that moment, they are discovered. Margaret takes the device and activates it. She tells everyone to stay still and remain silent because they cannot see them. However, she clarifies that they can still see the device, and the effect will not last long, so they must leave immediately. They manage to get onto 2 trucks and escape. Their next destination is the news station. There, Margaret convinces the director by using personal information she knows about his son. Meanwhile, Daniel and Hugo take care of preparing the USB drives, while Margaret gets ready to go live on air. Everything is set when Noah and his men arrive to cut the power supply. Jane also arrives at the location, but Noah manages to shut the lights down just before the broadcast begins. However, Jane manages to deliver the device to Margaret so she can tell the truth to the world. Using the artifact, Margaret restores the power. Noah watches everything in disbelief, while several of his agents leave the building in frustration after failing to stop her. Finally, they contact New York and manage to broadcast Margaret's transmission. Margaret reveals that a non-governmental organization called Wardex has hidden evidence related to extraterrestrial life on Earth for decades. She also explains that they developed advanced technology through reverse engineering based on those discoveries. She concludes by saying that everyone has the right to know the truth because the day of revelation has arrived. Then videos and photographs begin to play. The images appear on news channels around the world, causing immediate shock. Millions of people are watching from their phones, homes, offices, and workplaces. Military forces, governments, and entire nations are following the broadcast. Among the evidence are recordings of extraterrestrial beings, spacecraft, and various incidents that have taken place over decades. While the videos continue broadcasting live, Hugo brings a box over to Margaret. When they open it, Hugo takes Margaret and Daniel's hands to show them the extraterrestrial inside. People all over the world are watching the scene, including Sister Mora from the convent and Jackson from his home. Then the extraterrestrial whispers something into Daniel's ear, and he immediately relays it to Margaret. Seconds later, Margaret appears on screen again and, in the middle of the live broadcast, asks the world to listen carefully, but we never find out what she says, because that's where the movie ends. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new content. That's it for today. See you next time.